moon busting in One Piece is not only plausible, but is very likely to happen by the end of the series. Hello Internet, Jojo here, and today we are talking about turning one of the One Piece moons into more than one piece of moon rock. Now, personally, I'm not much of a fan of moon busting feats. I think that it is a feat that gets overused and is way too cliche.
Houston, we have a problem. We just lost the moon.
But, as we're about to go over, moon busting in One Piece is not as outlandish as it might seem at first. You see, as we're going to talk about, there is a high level of lore and meta precedence for events like this to happen. So without any further ado, let's jump into the topic of today: potential moon busting feats in One Piece and why they could happen. For our first piece of evidence, let's look at and talk about Inaru's Great Space Adventure. This was a cover story that tells his tale of what happened to Inaru after he got wrecked by Luffy. The story plays out that after he lost, he kept to his plan and flew the Arc Maxim to the moon. After he got to the moon, one of the first things that Inaru saw was an automata, a small robot, and the first thing he does is electrocute them with a bolt of lightning because that's how batteries work, and this robot wakes up with the full charge. This automata explains that he was built on Karakuri Island, Baltimore, also known as the place that Frankie nuked. He goes on to say that an inventor named Professor Tsukimi built them and became a father figure toward them. However, one day after they had been around for a while, these robots were sitting on the porch beside the professor, looking up at the sky, eating some dumplings. Suddenly, an explosion on the moon caused the professor to choke on what he was eating and die. This one image gives us the moon explosion that we're going to look at first. Now, we have no idea what caused this explosion, and we are never even given a hint. But, despite that, this does prove that this level of power does exist somewhere. As Oda is known to base events off real-life things, like he did with the cherry blossoms, this event is very likely based off the event and crater that created the large crater on our real moon. The real crater is called the South Pole Atkin Basin. This is a 2,500 kilometer wide, 13 kilometer deep hole. Now, this is admittedly not moon busting, as in real life and in One Piece, the moon is still there. But we don't know the full scope and magnitude of this explosion or what caused it. What this does prove is that Oda has no qualms about having events like this happen. So, that is our first piece of information we can use to justify moon busting in One Piece: the explosion on the moon from Inaru's Great Space Adventure. Now, the second piece of information comes from all the characters who are stated to have obscene levels of power. Whitebeard is easily the first that comes to mind, as he is repeatedly stated to have the power to destroy the world. It's important to mention this statement is not said by some civilian. This was said by Sengoku, the Marine's fleet admiral. This was also echoed by Suru, a Marine who is from the same generation as both Sengoku and Garp. Garp, for one, destroyed Don Chinjiao in a fight, and Don Chinjiao was known for splitting an entire continent that was known for its hardness. So, if these characters say that they themselves would not be safe anywhere when Whitebeard is out for blood, then we can assume that he is definitely capable of destroying the world. Not to mention that One Piece has a surprisingly absurd number of reality warpers like Patrick Redfield, who was exclusively designed by Oda. Redfield, the other Redfield, Patrick Redfield, is directly stated to be on par with Whitebeard and Gold Roger by Garp and Sengoku. He somehow created an entire sun, the whole island of Alabasta, and way more. The thing is, Patrick Redfield did not have a devil fruit of his own at the time. He would later get a mythical vampire zone fruit that would give him immortality and eternal youth, taking him back to his prime, but at the time he made the sun, he had no devil fruit. Also, we can't forget about Blackbeard. Blackbeard's power is that of darkness and gravity. His power can also counter Whitebeard's, and we just went over Whitebeard. Blackbeard can suck people and things into a pocket dimension of darkness, and many of his moves emulate black hole-like gravity. In fact, one of his moves is called Black Hole. When you get down to it, the Yami Yami no Mi is basically the more powerful version of Fujitori's fruit, and Fujitora can pull down meteors. Just imagine what Blackbeard could do. Actually, you might not have to. If Blackbeard's Devil Fruit Awakening acts like other devil fruits, then it could have been the Yami Yami no Mi that caused a strange permanent orbit of 7 moons. These moons are inside the planet's atmosphere, or something. It makes no sense. And for as weird as One Piece is, the world does tend to make logical sense most of the time. However, Blackbeard's awakening causing this is just headcanon, but it's still pretty plausible considering what we've just talked about. Third, the One Piece world has about 7-ish moons, so if one is destroyed, it's not going to be missed. This is important because on a meta level, the largest thing holding most series back from moonbusting is that they would have to find a way to put it back together or just do without it. With there being 7 moons, Oda completely circumnavigates that problem. If one gets destroyed, it's not a problem, it can just be ignored. Fourth, the power spike of the final war arc. I can't think of any shonen series that did not have a massive power spike in the last arc. Naruto got the Sage Mode, Toriko ate God the food. Ichigo finally balanced his power, Urza punched a meteor, Maka mastered the Black Blood, Meliodas... Well, I probably shouldn't spoil that because the anime is still going on. But you see the point. The final arc is the author's last chance to show the full capabilities of their character. This is their chance to make their character as strong as they want. This, combined with the previous setup regarding the moons, and it's not hard to see how moonbusting could happen. Now, as the fifth thing, let's delve more into the meta aspect. It's very common knowledge that Oda is a huge Dragon Ball fan. Oda is such a huge Dragon Ball fan that he even tried to copy Toriyama's art style, not to mention that One Piece and Dragon Ball have had multiple crossovers in both anime and manga. So, because Oda has such admiration for Toriyama, it's not a large leap in logic to say that Oda would want to incorporate some Dragon Ball-esque feats, and a very common feat in Dragon Ball, especially in early Dragon Ball, is a character destroying the moon. But it's not just Dragon Ball that Oda has seen. Over the years, Oda has become rivals with Kishimoto of Naruto and friends with Shimabukuro Koro of Toriko. 2 authors of 2 series that ended with characters splitting the moon and cutting the planet in half. Due to Oda's stated rivalry with Kishimoto, I don't see how One Piece is going to end without at least getting one moon-busting feat. However, the most blatant and obvious thing that we must account for is the fact that Oda is the last survivor in a dying era of manga and entertainment. Oda holds all the hopes and expectations of all authors that came before him, as well as manga authors who have yet to come. I would like to think that he knows he has a responsibility to end One Piece in such a fashion that it celebrates all other manga artists' work through the years. Let's just look at this. One Piece has survived Naruto, Bleach, Toriko, 7 Deadly Sins, and leagues more. By the time that One Piece actually ended 4-ish years, it might have even survived the newer series like Black Clover, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, and possibly even Boruto, depending on if it goes a distance. Seriously, by the time that One Piece ends in 4 years, dozens of other new series will have ended. One Piece has such a massive legacy to live up to, and I don't think that it will disappoint. So, adding all the things that I've gone over together, and I think that we see a picture of possibility. In this case specifically, the possibility of moon-busting feats, or maybe even greater and more powerful feats. However, this begs the question, what type of feats besides normal moon-busting could we end up getting? There are only 2 feats I'm very certain of. The first, and probably the most obvious that I think we'll see, is Fujitora summoning island-sized meteor. I'm not talking about a small island, I'm talking Dressrosa size. Like I mentioned before, Oda considered Kishimoto a rival, so Fujitora will definitely get his Madara moment. Perhaps if a moon gets broken, he can pull chunks of them like a meteor. Of course, no matter what Fujitora ends up pulling, Zoro or somebody will probably end up cutting it. The second major feat that I'm certain will happen is the destruction of Reverse Mountain. Now, there are staggering thematic reasons for this to happen. First being that it and the Grand Line literally make an X, as in X marks the spot. Second being that the canals that go up the mountain literally make an X as well, as in X marks the spot. 3 X's in one line. The third reason for the destruction of Reverse Mountain is that, as of now, it is the only location on the planet that the All Blue could be. Fourth, this is a symbol of the world government's control over the planet. Destroying it would be the ultimate symbolic act of freedom for Luffy and the world. 5th, this would be an easy way to unite Laboon and Brook after all these years. 6th, Reverse Mountain and Marijois act as the two corners of the world. The destruction of one would have to be followed by destruction of the other, and if Marijois is destroyed, then Fishman Island dies too, thus completing Charlie's prophecy that Luffy would destroy Fishman Island. The destruction of the Red Line, or even the partial destruction of it, would very likely be more than enough energy to destroy a moon, as it reaches all the way across the width of the Grand Line. This means that it must be vastly wider than Alabasta, which is just shy of Antarctica and roughly 1,000 kilometers larger than the moon. Reverse Mountain is also not made up of normal rock, as Laboon, an island well, has been ramming into it at full speed and barely causing any damage to it. This is a feat that I want to see happen, I will admit that. And I might calculate it someday. So let me know down in the comments if I should calculate the destruction of Reverse Mountain as like a theoretical feat or something. So Fujitora pulling a gigantic meteor and Luffy destroying Reverse Mountain are two feats that I am absolutely certain will happen. Even more than I am sure about moonbusting. In fact, I will admit that despite all the evidence I produced, I'm actually a lot more skeptical of moonbust than you'd think. About 65 or 75% sure. Either way, I'm holding out hope for this kind of feat. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, see you next time, remember to stay spectacular, JoJo, out.